If you have an old t-shirt that you are about to throw out, why not try turning it into a super useful tote bag instead of sending it to landfill? Okay, so we're going to take the t-shirt, and the first thing we want to do is create the handles. And to do that, get yourself a nice sharp pair of scissors. I've got some fabric scissors here, and we're going to cut along the sleeves. So we're going to cut the sleeves off essentially, and the good news is that you've already got a guide. So we're just cutting along the edge here, just slightly inside if you want to make it nice and even. Here we go. There we are, there's one off. You can always neaten them up afterwards as well. Okay, here's the second. And we're going to use these holes to create our handles in just a minute. There we go. So you can see I just sort of cut a little bit extra there so you can just neaten it up. So from here then, we want to create the middle part of the bag. So these bits here will be the handles and this here will be that center part. So this is my other half's t-shirt. It's quite a big one. So I'm going to make this cut quite deep. If you've got a smaller t-shirt, just make it a little smaller. So you'll have a smaller tote bag, but this one will be quite a nice size. So we're going to cut down here. Use the edges as a marker, and you're just going to do a nice big oval shape. Is that what this is? Horseshoe shape, isn't it? There we go. Just from either side. And again, don't worry about being too neat to start with, because we can neaten this up in just a little bit if we need to. But actually, that's not too bad. A little bit there. So there we go. That is the start of our tote bag. Now we want to go to the other end. So we'll get rid of this excess for a second. On here, we want to line up the very bottom. Now we're quite lucky because it's actually a striped t-shirt. If it wasn't striped, because we're going to use this as a marker to where we're going to cut up to, you might want to measure it, and you can just draw a straight line down, measure it up from the bottom. If it's a smaller bag you're going for, I'd aim for about 1 inch. We're going to do about 2 inches just to the second line here. Now do bear in mind, you are going to have to make little knots in this, so 2 or 3 knots. So it does have to be that long. Scissors, again, we're getting the scissors out, and we're going to go about maybe 1.5 centimeters here, and we're going to cut from the bottom just up to that second marker, or wherever your mark is, all the way along. So this does take a bit of time, but it will be totally worth it, and you can do this all the way across the bottom. Now I said about 1.5 centimeters. I've actually ended up doing them about 1 centimeter. It really doesn't matter. They can be much bigger as well if you like. It's just so you've got some fabric that we're going to tie in knots in just a minute to create the bottom of the bag. So you're cutting through both layers here as well, just like you did with the top. Don't have to be neat. Oh, you see, this one was a really big one. Let me cut that in half. There we go. This is such a fun little craft project. You can do this with the fam on a Sunday afternoon when it's raining. I do like to keep the end intact just because it means it's not going to fray. So you don't cut it away and then we've got that extra hole. So there you have it. We have the edge of our t-shirt just with loads of little strips of fabric at the end. From here, now this is the bit that takes a bit of time, but it's really therapeutic. We need to seal this. And the way to do it is by tying knots. There's no sewing at all. We're not doing any sewing with this. So you don't have to be an expert seamstress to create this. It's something really simple. So you'll notice that every single strip has a top and a bottom, except the very end ones, but we'll ignore them for now. So the top and the bottom, what we want to do is just tie them in a singular knot. From there, we're going to do it all the way down. So it's the top and the bottom piece, just in a singular knot, all the way down. As I said, this will take a little bit of time. This is the fiddly bit, but it does look very nice while you're doing it. Don't pull it too tight because you're going to need a little bit of give in just a second for when we work our way across again. Now, if you want to do it even faster than this, you can actually make these strips much larger as well if you like. You can do them a couple of inches, but I quite like the tassel effect. And if you did have a plain t-shirt, you can draw patterns on it as well, which is quite nice to do. It's a bit of a crafting activity. These final ones are just the tricky ones because there's not much space left, but we are almost there. There we go. Woo! And we are done. So there we go. So what you've got now is just, it looks like a little tassels all at the bottom. But that was just the top and the bottom folded to each other and tied in a little knot. Not too tightly, because now is where the magic happens, because you'll see here, if we go into the end, which is going to be the top in a minute, you can see that actually there's some holes in it, which we want to get rid of. We want to get rid of these holes, and the way to do it is put it back down. And now this is the time-consuming part. You are going to take from each separate knot, there's 2 strands coming off, one from the top and one from the bottom, and you're going to tie them sideways. So if we look at this, we're taking the loose end there, and we're going to tie it round. So here we go. Fold that through. Hold on, I dropped that one. So where's the side? Here we go. And we tie it through once. And then we're going to tie it through again. So it's a double knot. And move on. So it's, instead of the ones that are on top of each other now, we're doing it side to side. And this isn't an exact art. Sometimes they might cross over, and that's perfectly fine. You might do one from the top and one from the bottom, but we're sort of interlacing them so that all these knots are going to be done up double knotted and really tight from side to side right the way along to stop those holes. So the key is just not to use the same top and bottom strands. We're using sideways ones. And as you can see, just from those 2 I've done already, the holes have completely gone. And that's really tight now. And that's why we double knot these. So this is a little bit tricky, but again, you can see we've got that hole there from the 2 sides, from 2 separate knots, original knots. And we're just going to take one from each one, put it through, tie it once, tie it twice, tight as it goes, and the knot's gone. Simple as that. From the original knots, we can see there's a hole here. There's a hole here. So we're going to take 2 bits of fabric, one from either side of the hole, so from 2 separate original knots. We tie it over once, and we tie it over twice. And pull it tight. And from there, the hole is gone. And we can see we're doing this the whole way up, and eventually you'll have a whole row of really tight knots. So again, we can see where's the hole. There's a hole here. Let's get rid of that. So we take a strip of fabric from 2 original knots, separate knots there, and we tie it over once, tie it over twice. There we go, and we're just going to add to this lovely row here. So you can see along here now, there are no holes, just lots of tassels. And this is the basis of your tote bag. Now I can see you going, well, they're massive at the top. So that spare fabric we had from earlier, we could take a little snip from the sleeves. Because essentially these are going to be your handles that you put over your shoulder. So to make it really neat and tidy, instead of having big thick straps, we can take a little bit of fabric just to make it a bit more decorative and a bit more secure. You fold it, put it through the gap, and you can tie it into a bow, a double knot. I'm actually just going to do a double knot because this is quite short fabric. And on the other side, just make sure all that's nice and straight. So there we have a very simple keeping a t-shirt out of landfill tote bag for you. And I have just been to the shops and I've bought myself, in fact, I'm going to the shops and I am taking my reusable water bottle, which I'm going to put in as well, and my shopping list, which is in a lovely notepad. Of course it is. You can put them in your bag, over your shoulder, and there you go. A tote bag ready to take to the shops.